this surprises me. Maybe it shouldn't surprise me, but I was even a cop for a long time, and stuff still surprises the heck out of me. Now, I've been on a battle, maybe like you've been on a battle, like a personal journey, moving through life, trying to get ever so less fat. And there was a point that I think I finally conquered it. And I think maybe that still applies. But I only say that because I didn't stay where I had gotten. I went back to old habits, started doing things, and well, I caught myself. I didn't caught myself on the wrong side of 20 pounds. I caught myself on the wrong side of about 60 pounds. Originally, that 135 came off. It took 7.5, 8 months. I did use a lot of fasting. I switched from all those failures of being the caloric restricted method to, well, to actually using fasting. So longer term fasting, didn't eat for longer periods of time in between meals. I had all my hormones checked. I was able to start a few years ago testosterone therapy. I was over 50, and it seems to have helped quite a bit, at least with energy levels, working out, gaining muscle, all that sort of thing, because it was really in the crapper, my testosterone level. But besides that, the part of the equation that didn't get fixed was that habitual drive to overeat, to overfeed, and eat the wrong types of things. So then, um, in my journey, I've discovered a lot of things, and one of the things I thought was incredibly interesting was this. Basically, the cigarette companies, holy Hannah, the cigarette companies actually did a good job in engineering our food, and of course, here we are today. What happened was, I remember I was a smoker for a long time. That journey of quitting cigarettes, ugh, it just seemed to take forever as well. But finally, one time, I decided to quit and it stuck. I thought the same was going to be with food. The same applied to alcohol. One time out of the thousands of times I said I was never going to drink again because of all the mayhem and hardship. Now, not jail and not people, but, waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and thinking your heart's going to blow out of your chest, that sucks. So you do that enough and you start figuring that you're probably dancing with the devil. And pretty soon the devil's going to call in his card. And that's an issue. So I was able to kind of move past that and put that down a few years ago. Cigarettes put it down, chewing tobacco put it down, alcohol put it down. But the food, oh my gosh, the food. Food's amazing. So then I start looking into it. Now, is it really our fault that we're fat? I think so. I think once you combine understanding that misinformation is a thing, when you start to understand that other people have it in their own best interest for you to remain fat, that sometimes medicines are applied to helping fat people lose weight, and then those medicines typically have to continue to be taken forever if you want to stay in that particular thinner state. You don't have much choice but to continue that way unless you change the reason. Now, here's the reason. Not a therapist, not a doctor, not a dietitian. I'm just a fat guy striving to be less fat. And I think I figured it out, but one of the things people often say is, well, you have these habitual eating cues because of some kind of trauma you faced in childhood. That trauma, whatever it was over 50 years ago, I would imagine. Yeah, I'm just not going there. So then I say, you know what? I'm going to do it the other way. We're not going to worry about the past trauma. We just have to reprogram Connor today. We have to start planning out things. And that was a big help for me when I started to actually plan out my next event, not treating meals as if I'm cheating on myself, but treating meals in a more respectable way where I worked very hard honoring the meal, whatever it was. Now, if I was going to go out and do something I know wasn't good for me, like devour a few pizzas, I would make it an event. And it started to get tiresome. It was much easy cheating with myself and going and having this event without having all the panaz or panaz, all the structure built around it. So instead of eating 15 tacos in a car, it was driving the 15 tacos home or having them actually at the location. So Jack in the Box, for example, I would go in and order it, spread it out, sit at the table, and let myself be judged. Sit there and have 16 tacos stacked up, two large French fries, two large Oreo cookie shakes, and boom, I'm there. If it were pizza, not that you can really eat pizza at places anymore, but I would then take the pizza home and all there be judged by everyone and eat the pizza. Well, that started to suck. It was just weird people looking at me because I know consuming four pizzas probably isn't the best thing for me. Now, if maybe I hadn't eaten for a year, well, then it would probably kill me because when you fast a long time and then break it with something like pizza, yeah, you're just calling a bad thing to happen for you. So this having been said, then I start to think, well, God, food is so addictive. It really is incredibly addictive. But I don't see myself gorging on eggs or meat or steak or turkey or chicken or vegetables. I don't have that. I don't have that tendency. Those types of food, meat, eggs, fish, and vegetables, yeah, not a thing. They don't get me off really. However, ice cream, cookies, cakes, things in bags, highly processed food, any type of bread, any type of pasta, all of that stuff, yeah, that does it. And I can eat all of that stuff until my stomach is so distended, it's pushing out, and my distension receptors, I think that's what they're called, they're starting to just cry and scream. To me, that was pleasure, and it's still pleasure. And that's the problem. So, do I go back and start to figure out why Connor is acting this way, or do I just put a stop to it by trying to self educate? What's interesting is the way that they've made food, the way that the cigarette companies went in and bought a lot of the food conglomerates is very interesting to me. The cigarette companies got caught kind of by engineering cigarettes and making the cigarette more addictive over time. They worked on it. They hired people to do that. It looks like the same thing happened with a lot of the processed food we eat. If you look at the ownership of these major food conglomerates, you'll find out that it's actually the tobacco companies that own them. And I think the playbook is relatively similar, where they bring in their own people to now make that food more palatable and more addictive. You know what I found? The term bliss point. Have you ever heard bliss point? It sounds kind of exciting. A bliss point would almost be some kind of a point where which is blissful, where you're feeling so much wholesome goodness you can't stop. They do that with food. They've created food to have a very high bliss point. The types of food that have very high bliss points, not steak, not eggs, not vegetables, not meat, not, did I say fish? Not fish, but pizza and donuts and ice cream and fried tacos and oh my gosh, yes, a very high bliss point. So the goal in this is to manufacture that food, make it very inexpensive because it's not made of food, it's made of nonsense. But the nonsense does a number on your body. And then have the world fight over whether caloric restriction is better, fasting is better, and actually talk about the ingredients of the food having been enriched or having had vitamins added to it, and then saying, hey, this qualifies as food. This is perfect for you. This is all your body needs. And then slowly tell people, well, you need protein. You don't want to lose your muscle. So if you're going to go on some kind of a diet, whether it's fasting or caloric restriction, that's going to take away your preciously earned muscle. So why the hell do anything? Why not just stay fat? That's almost what they're telling you. And then if you decide to go see medical intervention, then a lot of that times it's, and I've heard this so many people, you're actually not fat enough to have the stomach stapled. But if you were 20 pounds more, really? So then they go out and they gain 20 pounds. Shame on you, doctors and medical staff. I've seen that more than once. And then besides that, even if you don't want to go that route, there's probably a medicine. The GLP-1 medicines, those are being prescribed. Now, they're FDA approved. These have been through the all of the issues, but isn't it true that other FDA approved drugs cause bad problems? There was some arthritis drug, remember that? Hate to bring that up, but I guess that caused heart attacks or issues like that. Is that the case with these drugs that they're prescribing hand over fist that Medicare now covers at $50 a month so people can take it and lose weight? And what's going to happen in the future? See, those people didn't fix their problem either. Just like me, they didn't go back and do that deep childhood research on trauma and find out when I wasn't held enough, when I wasn't kissed enough, when I was made fun of too much, when fill in the blank occurred, which causes me to want to just eat like a terrorist. But not ready to go there. However, it's the same mechanism as far as maybe why people eat. Now, when you look at the food that's super highly palatable, that's easy to get addicted to. I don't know if that's classified as an actual addiction. I think if it was, then there would be a lot more repercussions for the companies producing the addictive food. So I think that that's stayed away from. That's probably not even a good thing to joke about. But on the other end of it, what if these foods weren't really addictive? What if it was the people that had the problem? That's a much easier course because now it's blamed on the person. Now the person needs to seek help. Now that same person needs to start taking this particular drug, and then that person will see results. What these drugs do is they cause you not to desire, not just food. These are the GLP-1s, not just food, but kind of everything. Before you go there, maybe you've already gone there, and that's cool. Just pay attention to kind of where you are. If things used to excite you and get you happy, I'm not talking about 15 tacos at Jack in the Box happy. I'm just talking about regular garden variety, run of the mill happy. And you don't see anything shiny anymore, I don't know how that's going to impact you in the future, but it might be something to at least make a mental note of. And as long as we're making notes, you might as well write it down because you might not be able to remember the mental note at some point because you've now been re-engineered. That's the way the world seems to be going. I only bring up this video because it has been remarkable to me to see that this was allowed and it was okay and it's well known and it's talked about. Here it is. The people who hooked us on cigarettes, they also did the same thing with food. When you look at what's happening in the world, when you look at the United States of America and you look at the percentage of obesity, it even changed since I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was one of the few fat kids in school. There weren't that many of us, two or three or five out of maybe a couple hundred kids, maybe 300 or 400 kids in elementary school. There wasn't very many. I was definitely one of the few. But oh my God, did I pay for it? And even today, even with all the obesity in the world, all of the fat folks, it's still the number one thing to make fun of. I haven't done studies on that, but it seems very common, even by people that are also fat. My dad, God rest his soul, he was fat as an adult until he had his heart attack and all these other medical issues that almost forced him to shut his mouth and not eat for a while. So he leaned out quite a bit. Not perfect, but a sickness leaning out. So he lost a lot of muscle. Our scarcopenia. My gosh, I'm sure I slaughtered that. But where you start to lose muscle, well, he did all that. But he lasted. But when he was fat, at his fattest point, and he had the big beer gut with that visceral fat in it, that's all that internal organ fat. When he had that, he would still make fun of fat people. And he himself was fat. I see that a lot as well. Looking at the percentages, fat people are still one of the easiest sectors of people to pick on. Now, there's a lot of people that love themselves, love their body. They're not going to stop being fat. They're all about being fat. I think there's a line between doing it for cosmetic reasons and doing it for health reasons. If you don't have visceral fat, if you don't have that internal fat that's choking out your organs, hey, be you. You be you. It doesn't matter. But when you start eating enough and you have enough of that exterior fat, your body really starts to experience that skin distension. The fat starts to fill the skin. The skin starts to tighten. At some point, the body says, we got to store this somewhere else. So then it starts storing it around the liver, around the heart, around the lungs. You've seen the commercials or the TV shows showing these people that are cut open, these massively obese people. Yeah, that's not great. And if you're there, you can fix it. But you have to also maybe address whatever your elephant in the room happens to be. If it's something that you can't do in moderation, you need to learn that. Because I can't drink alcohol in moderation. I can't smoke cigarettes in moderation. I can't chew tobacco in moderation. All of those things I quit. It took me thousands of times to try until finally they worked. Whichever one it was of those three, finally it worked. Food, yeah, I thought that worked too. But you know, You get around other people and they like a certain thing, and then you figure out, hey, that's not a bad thing. And then you start overeating that thing, and then you're eating like it's your last meal type of thing. Yeah, I'm sure that has some scar damage from growing up, the way that I was treated or the things that had happened. But I either now made a decision, I either, yes, I do it, or no, I don't do it. There is no moderation for me. I can't moderate cupcakes. I can't moderate ice cream. Then they say, well, aren't you going to miss ice cream? Yeah, I'll miss ice cream just about as much as drinking bleach. And I've never drank bleach. I don't recommend it. It's probably going to kill you. But that's the type of mindset that you need. Don't you don't have to miss it. And if somebody else says it's great for them, then they need to be who they need to be. If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, you gotta try this cocaine," I wouldn't even think that that was okay for a second. Oh, you got to let me inject you with this drug. It's really wonderful. I wouldn't even say, what does it do? I would say it's a non-starter. I'm not moving forward. So when you go to a dinner party and you're on a particular regimen or you're like, this is it, I'm fixing this, doesn't mean you have to exclude that from your life. You just put lines in the sand with yourself and say, if I go to this event and they're offering me my favorite donut in the world made specially for me, wrapped in gold foil, that I'm going to say, no, I don't play. And the time that you're going to be tempted, it's not going to last as long as you think. The time that you get hungry and have these hunger waves and want to run out there and buy a box of donuts or buy 15 milkshakes, that goes away. It doesn't last. So you have to ride that out. It comes in a wave. I've noticed this. So when I get hit with something, I want to go out and get, a gallon of cold stone ice cream or, a dozen apple fritters or whatever it may be in this massive amount of stuff that I know I shouldn't be eating one of, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to eat so much that I distend my stomach. When I start to think about that, I understand that's a wave. So I try to actually force myself to do something else. Try to write in my journal. Try to actually do real work on these boxes here. I try to do something that takes my mind off of it. And, it works. And then I haven't thought about it for a while, but it'll come back. It comes back every time. The more you adhere to that kind of a plan, the more you start to honor your own version of your word to yourself, the easier it starts to become. Truly, willpower is a muscle. Now, they say the people that are selling stuff always talk about you don't need willpower with my diet. This makes it easy for you. You can eat and lose weight. Tom lost weight eating, increasing his caloric intake by 1,000 calories a day. He's now losing weight for the first time. When he was at 1,500 trying to cut, it never worked. I don't know Tom. Good for Tom. I'm definitely not Tom. If I look at a donut, I'm putting on weight. If I smell something, I'm putting on weight. So, anyway, tongue in cheek, but you get the deal. Also, finally, I'm going to say this, and I talk about this a lot when I talk to people. That scale, it's so good over time, but it definitely is not a short-term friend. A short-term friend, you don't need it. It'd be like poking yourself in the eye with a sharp stick. It's horrible because your weight's going to fluctuate every day, even when I stop eating altogether for 7, 10, 14 days. There are days in there, even sets of days, even 3 days where there's no movement or an increase on the scale. What the hell is that about? What would cause that? I ate nothing. It's only been water and salt. So then what do? Like we all do. God, did I have too much salt in the water yesterday? Did I did I did I use a different type of deodorant? Maybe that's putting weight on me. How did I get weight? Did I miss the time? Maybe the scale's bad. Maybe I need batteries. When something doesn't move and you're not eating at all, then appreciate it. Hold back for a second before you freak out when you're doing a caloric restricted diet or something else where the scale isn't moving. You need time and grade. You need more time on the job to make this stuff happen. That's very important. You want to make sure that when you're out there, you're looking at these things, say people are saying, oh, well, you want to maybe try this weight loss drug. Maybe you want to try this sort of thing. It's almost like the needle with the unknown substance in it at the party. I wouldn't even ask what it is because I'm good. You got to be careful. You got to watch out for yourself. There's a lot. When you start taking these drugs, I started taking testosterone. When I did, it was explained to me that if I stop, there's probably going to be a problem. So I knew that was a life journey for me. Until I croak, I'll be taking it. Small dosages, very small, just putting my level where it should be, and that's where I am. I understood that at the time I began. These GLP-1 drugs, maybe that should also be the disclaimer. We'll have to see. You have to watch, you have to see what's happening out there, you have to educate yourself, and don't take anybody's word for it. Just be wary. I'm Connor with Honor, thelastaddiction.com, because food is my last. I hope you're well. Be good to each other, be good to yourself, and forgive yourself when you screw it up, and begin again immediately. We'll see you tomorrow. Be well.